Okay, welcome to the press conference at the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. My name is Terry Jimbo. I am your moderator today, and I'm also co-chair of the committee that handles the press events such as this one today. And we are giving a series of press conferences regarding the coronavirus situation. And we have another one today with the Tokyo University professor, Tatsuhiko Kodama. And he's going to talk about the immune system. He gave the title just before the press conference, The Rise of Immune System and Collective Immunity or Immune System of the corona or new coronavirus. So, and Professor Kodama is going to deliver the speech in English first, about 10 minutes or so. Then he's going to go to Q&A. And we have about 10 or so reporters pre-registered online. So I'm going to give opportunity to ask questions to those reporters first, live. And then if we have time, if time allows, we will open up the questions to for those who are watching this on Vimeo live and who can send in questions to this email address. Can you put up the email address to which they can send in the questions, please? Yeah, news@fccj.org.jp. That's the email address that you can send in your questions to. And if time allows, I can't promise you, but if time allows, I will read out the questions that came into this email address at the end of the press conference. So let's go to Professor Kodama's speech first. じゃあ、児玉先生、よろしくお願いいたします。
My name is Tat Kodama of Tokyo University. Today, I would like to report some of our recent results about antibody testing in coronavirus. And these results also show several important hypotheses or suggestions for combating against coronavirus. So, can I start the PowerPoint slides?
The PowerPoint, please.
So today, actually, I would like to talk about 4 different conclusions. The first one is antibody testing in Japan indicate many of the Japanese might have some previous exposure to coronavirus family proteins. That makes the low death rate in Japan or East Asian countries. And secondly, the antibody testing results shows us some prediction of severe disease and perspective for therapy. And third point is a kind of social system to combat against COVID-19, including antibody testing. Because our preliminary study indicate in Japan officially 5,000 infected patients in Tokyo has been reported. But actually, our estimation indicates about 80,000 infected subjects in Tokyo City. That means there are 16-fold higher infected cases in Tokyo. And the fourth point is a kind of style about so-called East Asia style against combating COVID-19. It's a bit differs from stay home or lockdown style in New York or others. So next slide, please. Actually, we developed the new antibody testing, quantitative measurement testing. And next slide, please. And later we may discuss about the detail, but the most important point is most of PCR positive or negative patients also indicates good agreement with antibody testing. Next slide, please. And also, we come across a very strange conclusion that ordinarily, if you may heard from immunology specialists, you may hear that initially IgM reaction happens, then IgG reaction. But actually, what we've found is poor and delayed IgM response in these patients. Next slide, please. So this slide shows why these low IgM or delayed response may happen. Because if it ordinarily happens at the secondary response instead of primary response, so many of Japanese patients may have some exposure to coronavirus related family, COVID-2 related corona family virus. Next slide, please. The same result has been reported online, the journal Cell, just several days ago. In San Diego, about 20 to 50 patient lymphocyte has a memory to coronavirus proteins, which also makes a difference in also city to city in the United States. Next slide, please. So this is the most important part, understanding RNA virus, is it differs from human being or other animal species. These coronavirus or others are RNA, from RNA to messenger RNA and the protein will be synthesized. So there are many mistakes, unstable mutations, fastly changing. So RNA virus is very hard to, how can I say, handle it. So next slide, please. So actually, if we looked at the history of so-called influenza or flu, many of them comes from the southern China area, then moves to Middle East, to Africa, to Europe from 16th centuries. And for example, in recent years, there are several other development in coronavirus, so-called SARS and MERS, also occurred. And also SARS-CoV-2, already the 3 major genotypes has been reported, or the number could be increasing much more rapidly. So if we consider about the coronavirus, we need to understand the existence of various types of coronavirus. And also there are several unknown coronavirus species in the world. So the next slide, please. So that makes the pre-exposure, or how can I say, the having some immune reactions against the coronavirus family makes a big difference in East Asia versus other countries. The mortality rate in USA or other countries, including recently Russia, Brazil, or others, are increasing very rapidly. But in China, Japan, or South Korea, among 1 million, the death rate is in China 3, in South Korea 5, and worst in East Asia is Japan, still in 1 million, only 6 mortality rate. In contrast, for example, in the United States, it's already 275, and the UK, it's 511, and in Italy, it's 528. So there's a huge difference by the perhaps presence of immunity against coronavirus family. This result has not been studied so extensively, and we need to understand this situation. Next slide, please. And this detailed analysis of antibody or immunity may change seriously. Next slide, please. So, for example, those who indicated high IgM response goes to severe disease. So those who don't have previous exposure to coronavirus family might become a serious injury. Next slide, please. And we are studying many viral diseases. And when you handle about or face about antibody, you should know neutralizing antibody and non-neutralizing antibody. Non-neutralizing antigen antibody cell conversion is associated with various tissue injuries and which causes, for example, severe diseases. So immune system is a kind of double-edged sword. It may function as protecting no infection anymore, but sometimes tissue injury are caused by immune reaction. Next slide, please. So pivotal role. So in order to treat this rapidly changing RNA virus, actually in 21st century or last half of 20th century, the style of treatment has been changed. For example, RNA virus, in case of HIV or hepatitis C, treatment was a combination of antiviral drug, not the vaccine, so or collective immunity. So understanding this situation is very important for considering about the future direction. Next slide, please. And currently, the most promising treatment strategy is there are two drugs, favipiravir and tocilizumab. The initially, when asymptomatic to early phases, the antiviral RNA-dependent RNA polymerase inhibitor may be critical to reduce the number of virus. But when the serious disease happens, the drugs handling against cytokine storm should be a kind of choice. Next slide, please. And there are several results that we may discuss later, so just skip it. And next. So for antibody testing as a basic platform for COVID-19 precision medicine, what is the aim of antibody testing and who should check antibody and what social system will be necessary? So later we would like to discuss a lot about this one, but just go quickly. Next slide, please. The precision medicine is based on antibody testing in social level. So in school or company or hospital or nursing home or others, it should be checked periodically. And if there are high antibody accumulated area or some certain kind of jobs, then PCR testing or others should be. Or when there are some symptoms happens, we should check PCR testing or others. And the most important thing is treatment plus GPS tracing. It's very important. And so when it may, the society will open, we should consider about what age are you, or are you living with elderly, or are you engaging in lifeline jobs? And there are another consideration is elderly or immunocompromised subject who should be taken care, and their situation should be checked very carefully. Next slide, please. So a kind of problem caused by the traditional lockdown or stay-home problem, because only upper class can endure such an economic burden, and also so-called stay-home scheme induces increase in lethal hospital and nursing home infection, increasing intra-home infection, and increasing infection in workers of lifeline. So next slide, please. For example, what we are doing is my room's whiteboard indicate every day there are lots of hospital or nursing homes are seriously infected. And next slide, please. So next question could be, what is the aim of antibody testing? So it depends on how many residents are infected with SARS-CoV-2 virus. And if infected, in order to recognize disease status, patients should be tested. And also, in order to know the risk of reinfection, that can be the question. Next slide, please. And who should check antibody? This is a very big question. So one is in general public and hospital and nursery home. Because in this situation, COVID-19 infection is as a lethal virus. And also workers in lifeline, for example, policemen, post office, or garbage disposal, or other. Next slide, please. So, for example, we have estimated the number of infected cases in Tokyo using our quantitative determination. And there are about 80,000 infected subjects in Tokyo, which is 16-fold higher than reported cases. Next slide, please. And this antibody testing is very important for determining disease status and determining the treatment. Next slide, please. So, yeah. Sorry, I may talk too much about it. So next, just to skip this slide. And perhaps the most important point is if we consider about the massive number of patients, we need to GPS trading against this lethal virus and stop contact with infected person instead of social distance will be the key to solve this problem. Next slide, please. And this strategy always come across ethics in testing GPS strategy. Consideration on not to receive disadvantage or employment or education is very important for testing or GPS strategy. And anonymization by pandemic number. Do not reveal attributes online. And but the most important ethical problem is if we may be infected by this lethal virus, you will face ethical problem and responsibility. This is a very new point, and we should consider about this point very carefully. So, yeah, let's open to questions.
先生、このパワーポイントはスタッフの方に連絡すれば皆さんに配布してもらえますか？
So please access to staff to get this file delivered, or if the staff can deliver it to those who already know the email address, please deliver it quickly.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Like Professor Kodama said, please contact that email where you can send in questions. This is news at FCCJ, news at FCCJ or JP. You can email to this address and ask for the PowerPoint file, which part of which the professor has just shown. He is generously allowed us to distribute that for those who are interested in getting a copy of the PowerPoint. So please do indicate that you're interested in getting one. Okay, so we're gonna go to Q&A, and we're gonna start with pre-registered reporters on Zoom. And let's start with the Simon Daniel of Washington Post. Okay, Simon, go ahead.
I need to unmute myself. Thanks very much. Kodama Sensei, thanks for your talk. can you talk to us a little bit more about the question of immunity, please? Just explain to a non-medical person like myself a little more about this. Are you finding evidence in your testing that Japanese people have, the way they're reacting to the virus shows that they have some immune reaction which is better? And secondly, you know, you said there was some immunity in America, so I'm very interested in the fact that Asians have lower immunity, but it also, I was a bit concerned, I was a bit unsure when you said there was also immunity in the United States.
Can you show us the number 8 slide?
Sorry, I forgot to introduce our interpreter. As always, almost doesn't require introduction anymore because she's always there. Mary Joyce is our interpreter today. Can you show Mary's? Yeah, Mary's there. Okay, so Mary's our interpreter. Yeah, Mary, please interpret that into Japanese first.
ワシントンポストからの質問なんですけれども、この免疫のことについてぜひもう少し詳しくご説明をお願いしたいんですけれども、特に医療など専門にしていない人が分かるような形でお願いしたいんですけれども、先生の研究、その検査の結果などによって、日本の人たち、そしてアジア人にある程度の免疫があるということが結果としては出てるんでしょうか。そしてアメリカにもそういったような結果があるという話があったんですけれども、そのアジア人なのかアメリカでもそういう結果があるのかということについては少しはわからないので、それについての詳しい説明をお願いします。
Can you go back slide number 8?
スライド8番。
Please show
8。はい、地図ですね。はい。
Actually, the RNA viruses are mutating or changing very rapidly. And when we talk about immunity, actually the target virus itself is mutating very rapidly. And there's a long history of influenza-like syndrome or coronavirus-like syndrome from very old days. The first well-known is the 16th century history, and it moved from China to go to Arabic area, Africa, then go to EU. And recently, the many coronavirus, the genome sequence has been determined. And the very famous ones are so-called common cold corona. In Japanese, we name it kaze corona. Already there are 4 types of kaze corona exist. Then year 2003, so-called SARS appeared. SARS appeared in China, Hong Kong, or Taiwan. And in year 2012, there are so-called MERS that in Saudi Arabia or South Korea has been faced this problem very seriously. So every year we are facing various types of corona evolving. And even the current COVID-19, already there are several different genotypes has been reported. And when we applied a drug such as azithromycin, that's rather enhancing the speed. And chloroquine and azithromycin has been used in European countries in widely. That may also enhance the change of mutation speed. So even human intervention may increase the changing speed. And let's go to slide 5.
Okay, can you get to slide 5? Yep. Okay.
There are 2 typical types of response. Ordinarily, we've heard about IgM comes first, then IgG appears. So during this situation, there are so-called affinity maturation, and IgG often makes a very strong antibody.
Professor, can you just briefly tell us in layman's terms that what the IgM and IgGs are?
There are 2 types of antibody. So all you need is just simply IgM, primary infection, IgM appears. Then the class switch happens and much more specified IgG appears. But in secondary case, already lymphocyte has memory and only IgG rapidly growing. And let's go back to slide 4. When we looked at the slide 4, initially we thought that we may make a mistake. So we checked many times, or we are checking by various methods, or even checking with PCR testing or other testing, and found that this result was right. So IgG response comes earlier, and IgG response comes earlier, and IgM response was delayed and weak, apart from our expectation. And what's much more surprises for us was the, let's go to the slide 23 or 24?
23.
Yeah, 23. Ah, yeah. Yes, just go back the better one could be. Yeah, can you go to 23 or 20? Yeah, this slide. This slide shows the IgM levels in patient plasma 12 days after onset. All IgM response persons are in severe disease or later developed severe disease. And all IgM response lower person indicated the mild to moderate disease. So this is clearly connected to low death rate in Japan. In Japan, already low IgM response is common and low death rate is common. So that's a kind of situation we are facing.
Okay, let's go to next question. Ilgin, you up? You can go ahead. You on?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yep,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Okay, thank you, Professor Kodama. I have two questions, very short. You are an expert in precision medicine, and you're talking about these very finely tuned countermeasures. But I just want to ask you about the practicality of having these antibody tests, for example, for students or for airline passengers. Because if I am not mistaken, antibody testing means blood test. So do you think there should be maybe a screening test first and then a blood test? I'm just asking about the practicality. And the second question is really your opinion about this latest positive news from the company Moderna, which is trying to develop a vaccine. They are also using mRNA. You are more familiar with the scientific, I think, background of that. But are you hopeful that this vaccine will perhaps be a success?
Yeah.
Thank you.
簡単に日本語で訳させていただきます。BBC のイルギンですけれども、2つほど質問があります。まず先生は精密医療のご専門ということで、抗体検査についての実用性といいますか、その具体的に必要できるかということについて、ぜひ聞きたいと思うんですけれども、例えば今後学生ですとか、飛行機に乗る人たち、パッセンジャーなどを全体的に検査をするということを実現可能かどうか、やはり血液の検査になると思いますので、それについての見解をお願いします。そして2つ目の方は最近モデルナ社からのワクチンの開発についてのポジティブなニュースが報道されているんですけれども、それが期待できるものなのか、それについての見解をお願いします。
はい。According to first question, please show slide 2.
Slide 2.
2番目です。
これ
最初から2番目のやつ。
2枚目ですね。
ええ
はい。
方法の説明です。この次です。
はい。
I have been working with a Japanese company named JSR to develop a particular bees to reduce the noise about the measurement. Because antibody testing, as I mentioned before, there are many false positive and false negative. So we'd like to develop these methods. And there are Chinese company named YHLO is very good at to develop the chemiluminescence technology. So they are using our bees to chemiluminescence, and automated machine has been developed. And this development has been done fairly quickly in China, in Wuhan. They built a hospital started in February 3rd, and they collected more than 10,000 researchers or others into there, and using our bees or immunology. And February 15th, they already established the initial version of the chemiluminescence technology using our bees. And this machine is fairly useful to determine quantitative measurement. So the problem is not the sensitivity, rather the reducing background. So the reason why we can identify the difference in IgM in severe patients and non-severe patients is we can reduce the background, so we can reduce the cutoff line very precisely. And these tests needs only less than 0.1 milliliter. So ordinarily, we can use it the residual sample of ordinary blood testing. And one machine can handle 500. So today, in the last day, we measured nearly 500 in one day. And today, in my lab, the researchers are determining 200 today only. And already in Japan, there are 5 machines has been set. And in worldwide, there are more than 140 machines has already set. And the number will become soon to more than 400 machines, which means in worldwide, the machine or capacity is rapidly growing. And the most important point is this is very accurate. So it much more goes to precision, because people often say that the easy to access or quick reaction. But in case of disease diagnosis or health-related matters, the quality is the key to success. So quantitative and accurate and rapid and can do in small samples. And also this machine is fully automated. So the, how can I say, the researcher's risk or technician's risk is very small. So we are using the barcoded tube. So at the site of collecting, if these barcode numbers are connected with their cellular phone number, we can trace these GPS tracing fairly easily. This is our idea. So this is the answer to first question.
I'm so sorry. I think it's more than the capacity, Professor. How are you going to get the students, to be tested? Just how many times do you have to do these blood tests, for example? That kind of practicality question.
Practicality.
So this.
In case of antibody reaction, it may take, if we would like to see full reality, it may take 2 weeks. But from day 8, around it, the patient has been diagnosed from onset. So if we combine the PCR testing and antibody testing, the rate could be more than 95%. So combination of antibody testing and PCR testing is very good. But the PCR testing is very difficult, or how can I say, not to increase the number so easily. So if we can do, can you show the slide number 17?
17.
Yeah, because we can do it, for example, my basic strategy is, so for example, every 2 months or 3 months, we may look at, can you change? Yeah, the slide before, the school or companies, or, yeah, this slide. So ordinarily, we are checking routinely about the school or others every year. And if we can check it, we may be able to find out those areas for accumulation of infection. So in this area, we should check, or a particular type of job, if there are something happen. So every 2 months or every 3 months may be practical.
Practical, okay.
And also it's very easy because just remaining residual sample for ordinary blood testing can be used.
Okay. What about your assessment of this Moderna vaccine? Do you think it's gonna? We can hope it'll all pull it through. You think Moderna?
I had still I'm not sure about their data, and it's too early.
It's too early.
I have two impressions. One is the vaccine about influenza. Every year people talk about the influenza vaccine, but still various different influenza appears.
It never makes it.
But still influenza vaccine is very effective for particular certain type. So it could be the mutating speed of coronavirus, and it's also related to how good antibody can they make.
Okay.
Because I think that antibody against N protein might make disease. Antibody against S protein may be neutralizing antibody.
Okay. 簡単に summarize it, please.
The answer?
Yeah. I guess we don't need it. Do we?
I
Okay.
have
All right.
it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Okay. So next question is from we got Patrick Welter of Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. Okay, Patrick, you up?
Okay, thank you, Professor. Thank you for giving this talk. I have two questions. One is related to the question Simon asked. You mentioned the study in San Diego, and that study seems to show some kind of immunity as well. But you were talking mostly about Asian people being to a higher degree immune already against this virus, if I understood your talk correctly. If you compare that to the study from San Diego, does the comparison of your data and the study from San Diego shows that Asian people are more immune against coronavirus already than American people? And my second question, if this is so, if you can argue that Asian people or Northeast Asian people are more, East Asian people are more immune against this virus already, would that mean that measures like lockdown, measures like social distancing are less urgently in these East Asian countries than they are in the Western world?
はい、2つほど質問があります。ドイツの新聞記者です。サンディエゴの研究の結果の話が少しあったんですけれども、先生のデータの中ではアジア人にはある程度の免疫があるという話だったんですけれども、サンディエゴでもそういったデータが出ているということについて、サンディエゴの例についてもう少し詳しく教えていただきたいというのと、アジア人とアメリカ人の免疫には違いがあるのか、それについての話をお願いします。そしてもし、東アジアの人たちの方が免疫があるということであれば、例えばこの地域においてはロックダウンですとかソーシャルディスタンシングのような対策っていうのは他の地域に比べて、緊急性がないといいますか、必要性は少ないということになりますでしょうか。お願いします。
And regarding to first question, it may be related to exposure to virus because in some Asian Pacific area, there are lots of traveling or communications. And we looked at many examples of flu-like syndrome spreading surrounding this area. And even in the United States, West Coast has many access to these Pacific. And it was very interesting why in Wuhan initial pandemic started, because it's inside China. And why Shenzhen or Shanghai or Hong Kong, it didn't spread so rapidly. Only we are looking at the flu started at southern China. But this time the situation quite different. New York, Milano, Wuhan, they are seriously infected area. And that might be indicated. Not the racial difference, rather simply exposure to pathogen virus. This is first question.
So mentioning Wuhan inside China, meaning inland in China, not near the coastal zone.
And for what's the next?
ロックダウンの対策などについてです。
Yeah, because the problem is this is the infected disease. So those who are not infected and meeting those who are not infected, no problem. And people cannot live without contacting other person. So so-called lockdown system is to protect upper classes person in the sacrifice of lower class person. So because when we looked at what happens after lockdown, always the infection goes inside the home, inside the hospital, inside nursing, because there are lots of need to, how can I say, the contact. And another important point is the coronavirus spreading is mainly mediated by infant or very children at age 1. They are, how can I say?
They're licking everything.
Yeah, everything. And their mothers or parents are infected first. And elderly person has little chance to face these infants, and they are lacking immunity. But the major problem is, can we make a good system to protect those elderly person or immunocompromised subject? Even in one Tokyo hospital, about half patient, so in 40-bed division, 22 has been killed by this virus. So it's a total killer. So can we protect these persons? There's a very serious ethical problem already exists. So in some cases, we may rely on lockdown, but it should be very short and limited. Rather, during the time, we need to develop a social system to detect who are infected. And immediately after infection, he looks like a kind of, how can I say, the very strange situation or dangerous situation, might kill some other person. So this has a very serious ethical problem.
Professor, please let me do a short follow-up just to clarify my second question. When you say that the Asian people has a higher degree of immunity against this virus already than compared to the Western world, does that mean that these lockdown or other measures are not as necessary in Asia as in the Western world?
Yeah, I think so. And but you may see the problem what happens in Singapore. Initially, Singapore, they can suppress the incidence rate very nicely. But there are one particular area, immigrant lived in very tiny apartment with many persons, and more than 10,000 immigrants infected fairly quickly. So the need for lockdown or something like that is the kind of, there are some highly accumulated area, we need lockdown. But the lockdown is also supported from other area of the country or world society. That's the meaning of lockdown, not the inhibiting person from moving, rather treating or helping them. That's the major purpose of lockdown.
Would you say that the lockdown is not only unnecessary, but would you even say it's counterproductive in Asian countries?
Yeah, especially in many countries, it's counterproductive because they need the method to detect the patient. For example, at the end of February, Japan, England, and the United States was the lowest incidence of infection. At that time, they reported in 1 million, only 5 residents are infected. So Boris Johnson said so, and Donald Trump said so, Shinzo Abe said so. But these countries actually record worst record because during that time, infection is spreading, and they already had many hidden patients. And these hidden patients entering a nursing home, post office, police office, hospital, and when they start testing, they realize that how serious the pandemic has already gone. Even Japan in East Asia, worst record. Initially, Japan looks only very little person are infected, but later, Japan has a higher mortality than China or South Korea. And that may also happen in Singapore because they have two-class society, Singapore citizen versus immigrant. And coronavirus is during these highly restricted duration, it's actually spreading inside. And in Tokyo, there are many hospitals. So can you see just slide 19?
Slide 19.
Yeah, the white, the intra hospital for that. What we are facing. This is a white, the one, yeah, the whiteboard. Yeah, this one. This is a whiteboard of my room. We are checking various hospitals, and every day, the patients are dying. And no official report has been reported in or from Japan. This is very serious problem. So there are many hospitals still under serious pressure of intra-hospital infection. Or there are many, how can I say that, nursing homes for others for elderly person. Yeah, that's also facing a serious problem.
Okay, so we go to the next question. We have Walter Sim from Straight Times. Sim, Walter, go ahead. Wait a minute.
Hi, thank you so much, Dr. Kodama, for your talk. I have just a follow-up question on your stance on social distancing. There has been a lot of concern about how relaxing measures too quickly will lead to new waves of infection. And I think the root of that is that asymptomatic patients could well spread the virus, especially to immunocompromised patients. So how will people, especially those who are asymptomatic with the COVID-19, know that they are infected unless they get tested? And in this regard, how many people needs to be tested for antibodies for there to be an accurate sense of the ground situation? Earlier on, you talked about how lockdowns are unnecessary, and you proposed a sort of social system. Could you elaborate on what kind of social system you envision? Thank you.
ストレイツ タイムズのウォルター・シムと申します。
はい
先ほどのソーシャルディスタンシングについての話があったんですけれども、
はい
それについて先生の立場を改めて確認したいんですけれども、今懸念されていることとしては早すぎる段階でこのロックダウンですとか、
はい
その規制が緩和されたらまた第2波が来るんじゃないかという懸念はあるんですけれども、特に無症状の人たちが知らないうちに、
はい
その感染に加担してしまうというようなことが懸念されているんですけれども、
はい
それをちゃんと確認するためには抗体検査は何件ぐらいする必要はありますでしょうか、全体的には。
はい
そして先ほどのそのソーシャルシステムの提案もあったと思うんですけれども、それについての詳しい説明をお願いします。
はい。Because active patients cannot be diagnosed by antibody testing. Antibody testing simply indicates where infection happened. So the most important point is, for example, when we enter the school in Japanese system, once in every year, they are checking blood testing. And like that time, everybody should take checking. Or even in company, twice a year, they are having the blood testing. So using just residual sample, we can do checking fairly easily within 2 hours or 1 day. We can know where the infection happened. So after that, we may put much more effort for antigen test or PCR testing in order to clarify where the danger exists or where the hole, a kind of, how can I say, against the wall, there might be some hole. From there, the infection may spread. So this is a very important thing, I think. So everybody should take. So the slide number 17,
Slide 17.
yeah. So school, company, hospital, nursing home, or others should check. So for those who want to school clean, or the one, yeah, the cartoon about the home school, or number 7, yeah, that one, yeah. So everybody should take antibody testing. So if there are some increase, within 2 weeks, we can detect the increase in the number. Then we can move to PCR testing. If there are some symptoms, we can know it much more easily. But without symptom, the PCR testing for all subjects is perhaps I think it's not realistic. But for blood testing, every 2 or 3 months, that could be endured.
あとそのソーシャルシステムのもし追加のご説明がありましたら、
はい。
新しいソーシャルシステムの提案ということについても、今の抗体検査のことでよろしいでしょうか。
So actually, the diagnosis should be done in combination of antibody testing, antigen testing, and virus testing, and also much more importantly, symptoms. So only the diagnosis should be done the integrated way. So we cannot rely on simple. But there are some difficulties in each testing, PCR testing or antibody testing, and we are developing the easiest method for general testing. And perhaps antibody testing currently, we have accurate quantitative large scale within short time. So this can match the current medical system. And perhaps the remaining problem could be undeveloped country or developing countries. For that, we may need some different system.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, we have Ariel Busetto of Japan Forward. Ariel,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're up.
Yep. Thank you for your talk,
Can you
Professor.
speak up a little bit? Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yep.
Okay. Thank you for your talk, Professor. I have 2 points. One of them is a confirmation. I think I didn't understand correctly, but it's about the numbers and how you got the estimates. So I'm looking at slide number 20.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could explain a bit again how these estimates were calculated, because I don't think I followed how these were calculated. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing that I wanted to follow up was again on immunity. The initial predictions when this crisis unfolded in late January were that Japan might be in danger of a mass epidemic because, unlike countries like South Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan hadn't experienced as much victims of SARS and MERS and other coronaviruses. So, and what you're saying is the contrary, in fact, right? So I'm wondering, how do we account for the difference in this opinion? So you're saying actually in those instances, a lot more people got the virus and we just didn't know about it? Or could you explain what, could you account for the difference in the opinion, please? Thank you.
2つほど質問がありまして、まず1つ目はスライドの20番のデータについて、そのデータをどういうふうに出したのかについて、少し私の方で理解が足りなかったかもしれないので、
20番出せますか？スライドの20番。
20番の説明を改めてお願いしたいということが1つ目と、2つ目はまた免疫についてなんですけれども、1月末に、このウイルスが新しく出たときに懸念されていたのは、SARS ですとかメルズの方は日本は香港、シンガポール、韓国などに比べて、被害は少なかった、ケースも少なかったということがあったので、免疫が、今回はないので日本が爆発的に感染が拡大するんじゃないかという懸念は当時されていたと思うんですけれども、今回のその免疫のデータなどを見ますとそうではなくて、日本は SARS やメルズの時はそれほどの影響はなかったにもかかわらず、そのコロナウイルスに対する免疫があるというようなことが、先生の話からは理解したんですけれども、それについてもう少し詳しい説明もお願いします。
はい。Regarding about the first question about the coronavirus type, because we have many common cold type corona, and also we are expecting, apart from SARS or MERS, there are many additional coronavirus type already spreading in Japan. And from my medical practice, I had a feeling from last year, we may facing some increase in sudden death. The respiratory distress patient in Japan. So there might be some other type coronavirus may exist. That's my impression. So not proven. But we need to define or determining the genotype of disease.
But wasn't that the case in other countries? I mean, why is it only in Japan or only in Asia that the corona type virus was the cause of common cold? How come it wasn't the case in US or in Europe?
Apparently, there are some spreading in Europe
and US.
Or US. But apparently, there are some regional differences.
Regional differences.
Because mainly the very famous localization is southern part of China. Is also bird influenza or others may have many long history from 16th century spreading. So there might be some problem. And in each country has a different exposure to this type of virus. In Japanese case, the exposure to COVID-19 is initially the travelers from China, the first wave. And the second wave, as far as I know, in our medical practice, coming from the people return from Europe or United States. Because when I realized the spreading of COVID-19 in US was initially when we come across the patients come back from Hawaii, a couple in Aichi. And in Miyazaki, a patient come back from Los Angeles during February. So already it has been spreading in the United States. So that's our impression.
Okay.
And
right. What's the second part of the question?
20.
Yeah, so the number of infected cases in Tokyo, and it says that of the 500 samples and you got 3 that had
Oh,
a
yeah.
positive IgG response, and therefore you calculated? Like, I just don't understand
What
how
was the
this,
basis of
like,
those numbers? Yeah. What was
yes,
the basis of numbers?
onegaishimasu.
The 500 subject has been collected from many individual clinics and age from 10 to 90, female and male nearly equal, and without any serious disease or something like that.
Mm.
And the number actually, yeah, there might be a lot of variation.
Mm.
So it's a very rough calculation.
Mm.
But we are increasing the number now, and we had a feeling about the range isn't so different by using other methods.
Mm.
So that could be one of our current understanding. And the problem is not only Japan, but also in USA or other countries. Perhaps the prediction of patient number is very difficult.
Mm.
Especially, there are many reports using the so-called easy kit, which has a huge number of false positive rates.
False positive. Mm.
Yeah, so we should be very careful about the estimation.
Mm.
So have you used the quantitative method? And do you have a clear cut, how can I say, exclusion of autoimmune or autoantibody rate? So perhaps already autoantibody rate, ordinarily we are seeing the noise could be nearly 1%
1%?
in some case,
Mm.
in women or in subject who had taken transfusion
Mm.
or others.
Okay.
So we should be very careful about the checking.
Mhm.
Okay. So just to be clear, you randomly selected 500 samples in many clinics who were not coronavirus patients, or they were? They weren't.
They are not, so perhaps
Okay.
from ordinary sense, they don't have the coronavirus symptoms.
Okay.
No
Okay.
symptoms. Okay.
I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Professor Kodama, can you just stay a little bit longer because I have one more
Yeah.
question lined up, and also just a follow-up question. Actually, I have an email question from independent web journals, Kondo-san, Yuri
Yeah.
Kondo, that about the numbers too. The health ministry said that they conducted some antibody test for to 1,000 people,
Yeah.
and the positive rate was like 0.6% in
Yeah.
Tokyo and 0.4 in Tohoku.
Yeah.
But we heard that the KO did a similar test to its patients, and the number came back with something like almost 6%. And in the U.S., I think New York, they came back with something like 14%, something like that. And what's this gap? How do you explain this gap? If you have some theory,
Yeah,
appreciate
I
it.
don't want
Yeah.
to mention about the so-called easy kit testing.
Easy kid, okay.
Yeah, because
Okay.
each kit has a different result.
But
and
it's 1/10 though, 1/10.
no verification.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
for example, today we are checking a hospital
Mm.
who did easy kit testing,
Mm.
and they, from our standpoint of view, there are threefold higher number.
3 falls, okay.
And these false positives, PCR testing, no actual infection,
Mm. Mm.
even IgM positive result.
Mm.
So I don't want to mention about the easy kit testing.
Okay.
Because if we would like to talk about precision medicine, we should be very careful about each testing criteria.
Mm. Mm. Okay, thank you. So we have a last question from Mr. Kanehira-san. Kanehira-san from TBS. Go ahead, Kanehira-san. Actually, I have another one, Simon.
I can.
カネさん、音が、
今入り
どうぞ、
ました。
カネさん、どうぞ。Go ahead.
I have just one question. Tomorrow, the Japanese government will decide the lifting of the declaration of emergency in Kansai area, Osaka, Kyoto, Hyogo.
Yeah.
How do you evaluate the decision? It's too early or too late?
Perhaps for my standpoint of view, much more important thing is what the procedure will be taken to elucidate the existence of infected person. Without proper diagnosis or without knowledge about infected person, we cannot handle this situation. So open or not open isn't so big problem for me. Because if there are not infected person will meet not infected person, there's no problem. We would like to know how many infected person and how can they be treated. The reason why I mentioned about Avigan, Favipiravir, is this drug shortens the virus existence time from 11 days to 4 days. So this is very important. So the reducing number. So perhaps in current situation, for example, it's quite strange to me is in Japan, almost universities or research institute has been closed by Japanese government order. So when we continue our research in PCR testing or antibody testing, every day we should fight against the Ministry of Education. So that's a quite a stupid situation. In Wuhan University plays a pivotal role to finding out virus. Or in USA, Washington University started first drive-through testing. Or in Cambridge, the university took a very serious role in PCR testing. In Munich or in Switzerland, in Italy. But in Japan, almost all university has been closed. So that's the most stupid act the government that I ever heard. If universities or research institute will stand up to fight against this virus, how can we determine the patient? Or how we can develop the method? This is the current situation.
Your laboratory is also ordered to close. Your laboratory at the Tokyo University was also closed now.
Yeah. Also, there are a huge number of obstacles every day we are facing.
Okay. So you're saying that the current official number of infectants or the number of infected people released by the government are not trustworthy, or it's not something that we can base our decision on whether lifting of the lockdown is a good idea or not.
So the current government attitude is just let sunshine or rain or winds wipe out the virus.
Okay.
This is like ancient history.
Ancient history. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Simon, I'm going to squeeze in your very last question. This is it. This is your last question. Simon, go ahead. Well, Simon Daniel of the Washington Post. Go ahead.
Back to me again. Sorry to go on. I just wanted to clarify about the IgG response that you observed in Japan. How many, was this a sample of people in more than one person, or in a percentage of the people, or in one person? How many people did you observe this sort of response in, where that looked as though Japanese people had some memory? And secondly, just to ask, is this something which is in the genes of East Asian people, that they have, that this history of influenza, of coronaviruses means they have genetically more able to cope with it?
It's not related to genetic difference.
Okay.
It's simply related to exposure.
Okay.
The problem is current our method is coating our beads with N antigen and S antigen. So we would like to develop much more IgG or IgM measurement to S and N. We are expecting that N is a causative protein for symptom for serious respiratory distress, and antibody against S could be the neutralizing antibody.
Okay, you get that?
Yeah, but were there a number of people that you observed this IgG response in?
we are checking nearly more than 100 PCR positive patients.
Okay.
We have a Tokyo University, Keio University, or other university correlation to check this result. So the number is increasing day by day, but currently we are submitting several papers or reports. So please wait until the official result will appear.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we are running over time. So thank you very much for staying long, Professor Kodama. And as a sign of gratitude and a customary, I would like to present a one-year guest membership to Professor Kodama. Thank you very much, Professor. And thank you for joining the press conference. Thank you.